Mark, we can't hear you. Mark, we can't hear you.
Round two, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Hit Away Hurts. Today we got a special guest, and hopefully now you can hear me.
Yeah, now we can. And IG, unfortunately, will not be going live tonight. So if you guys are listening from wherever you are, we're live on every other social other than IG.
Let me just say something, guys, before we get into this video.
Oh my God.
Mark was giving it to my live before because he was like, "You're gonna be late," and look who's not got it ready.
Bro, I'm ready. It's just not logging in. Anyway, listen. Guys, if you guys are new here, thank you so much for coming. If you're old, thank you so much. We love you all so much. Today, we have a special guest, my personal favorite guest so far, no bias whatsoever. Today, we have Alex Vanek, 22 years old, been around casting, playing, and coaching in the esports scene, my personal mentor, undercover production for Zorus Media. This man has done it all. And today we have him on to talk everything esports, talk about what it is about mindsets that set people to succeed. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Alex.
Thank you, mate. You're making me blush. That was a very good intro. Like before we were doing this, Hosri was like, "I'm gonna give you a really good intro. Don't worry, mate." And yeah, there you go, mate. You exceeded my expectations. Well played.
I pulled through in the end. They only took about 10 minutes of rehearsals, but that doesn't matter.
Nah,
so,
don't worry about it.
Do you reckon I missed out on anything? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
No, you pretty much hit the nail on the head, mate. I guess I'll explain a few things in layman's terms because people may be hearing like, what's a caster? You know, what is like a professional gamer? What is, you know, all these different things? What is
100%.
coaching, right?
Yeah.
So the easiest thing for me to relate to is like, I guess, sports. If people are a little bit more familiar, of course, with sports. So caster is like what a commentator is. So if, you know, the action's in front of you, I'm the person that's being like, oh, look at this is happening. And then, you know, the voiceover over the game, as it were. Yeah. Coaching is one-to-one parallel in sports, how you're, you know, the person who's directing the troops, has to speak. And with playing, it's a basically competitive version of what the video game is, as you relate it back to sports. Obviously, you're paying for money, playing for money, not paying for money. That doesn't make any sense. But
100%,
basic gist of it.
Yeah, it's like the same thing as traditional sports, just a different nature, right? And the way I explained this is really good because there are a lot of similarities, but it's actually like the field and the nature of the product that's different.
Yeah, it is a little bit different. I suppose it is sort of what you guys have been preaching as well with like the modernizing of different sort of medias. I imagine esports is like a more futuristic, like modernized version of sports, and it's something that we'll be looking forward into the future, as like with what you guys do, right? With you know, your digital media type stuff is something that is being done now, right?
Yeah. So, you know, you've been around the block is the way to say it. You know, you've done lots in the esports world. You've done, you know, I mean, you have your own YouTube channel, you do some reactions here and there. What are you actually pursuing now? And like, are you still in the esports scene in a way, or have you departed from it?
Right now, mate, I would like to call it partial retirement. Yeah. But you know, in the esports industry, retirement doesn't mean anything. People always go back to it. You know,
so true.
As soon as you see the Twitter post, "I'm retiring," you just think, all right, a couple months later, mate, you're back. But yeah, so right at the moment, I'm just sort of retired for a little bit. I suppose. Gonna sort of reformat the YouTube video stuff to make things a little bit more better for me long term, because I think with content creation, it's better to think long term and sustainability. So I'm just in that phase 100%. At the moment where I'm thinking, what do I really want to do? But for esports at the moment, I definitely will take a dive back into it. I think when you're a commentator or if you're a player, it's dependent on the game that you like to play, of course, as well, or that you enjoy watching. So at the moment, there's nothing that really particularly interests me in a way that I want to compete or commentate at a higher level. So just waiting for something to sort of crop up, and everything does sort of crop up once in a while anyway. So
not even Valorant?
Not even Valorant at the moment. It's a saturated market. Because a lot of people from different esports came over to Valorant because they thought it was going to be the next big thing, right? And when people think something is the next big thing, everyone and everything wants to jump on it. So for me,
100%.
as a person who was sort of newer as a commentator, in that world, it can be a little bit daunting. So a lot of how people get their breaks is by doing really well at something small.
Yeah.
And then building their brand up from that, if you know what I mean. It makes a little bit more sense, because when they have their own niche, then they can grow from that to something that is a little bit more mainstream.
Yeah, and use me as an example. I came from Overwatch into Valorant and got player of the game, and I won this headset. So,
oh, there you go. He's flexing his gear already.
I have to flex. So, guys, for anyone that doesn't understand, like, me and Alex played games professionally at one point. Alex got more into the coaching and casting thing. I got more into the playing. We both were with pretty prestigious organizations at the time in esports, but newsflash, being in a prestigious organization in esports doesn't mean too much, because contracts are always unfair. But anyway, past that, me and Alex have gone way back, talking 3-4 years now. So I've gone my own way since esports. He's obviously gone his own way. What is what made us depart from esports, right, is something we could talk about. But how practical is esports today for a kid aspiring to be a little gamer? Like be back before the days, bro. Mums used to be like, bro, get off the game. You're wasting your life.
That's
now
true,
when I'm a dad, bro, I'm gonna tell my kid, don't get off the game. Don't have any friends. Make sure you're playing every single day, because I want you to be like Ninja. So how practical is it, and how hard is it to get into it?
When 60 Minutes, I think about 2 years ago, they made a news story about esports, and they were perking it up to be like this thing that is very accessible, achievable. I ended up making a video on my YouTube channel explaining and breaking it down. To simplify it, I think esports is something that is accessible. I mean, people can just get their console, they can play whatever game they want. And they can practice it by just playing it a lot. It's like when you do something a lot, you tend to get better at it. Now, to say that it is easy to be in an elite sort of category, that's a little bit more debatable, right? In order to be elite in anything, you really need to sacrifice a lot of time and hard work. So if you want to be an athlete, it's not as simple as, okay, I'm gonna be going to the park every day and just playing with friends. It's not as easy as that, right?
Yeah, it's a lot different.
If you want to sort of relate it back to esports, you can't just play with your friends every day. You genuinely have to sacrifice a bunch of hours, and you genuinely have to sacrifice a bunch of your life in order to be an elite player and say, I can genuinely go down this path in my life where I'm gonna have a lot of fun, but at the same time, it's important that you can be, sustaining yourself throughout your life as well, right? With money, of course.
Because look at it this way: this has become a business. So in itself, like, people need to understand that. Okay, I'm going into the gaming world, but I'm doing it because I love it. But there's gonna be times where, like you said, you gotta sacrifice hours to playing and then practicing and stuff like that. Because I know Mark used to like spend hours on like this thing where he used to just move around his mouse so he can get the aim right. You know what I mean?
Exactly what the Twitch comment is about. So Ratflip said, hit the Kovacs for 30 minutes a day or no dessert for you. Exactly right, And if for you guys don't know what Kovacs is, imagine AFL players doing training, kicking the ball to see, how far they can get it, whether they can get it in the goals. In gaming, we had Kovacs. We basically trained our eye-hand coordination to be perfect to hit a certain target on the screen. If anyone's played Counter-Strike, you should know what I mean. You're basically training your aim, right? And so, and one thing I want to touch on, because obviously I went more into the gaming, whereas then you went more into the coaching casting. That point where you play the game for fun and play the game professionally to earn anywhere between, I earned 4 to 5 grand over 4 to 5 years, right? Which is garbage. But that's what you start off with. You know what I mean? And I had to train, like, I'm talking every single day. I had a training routine on aim training, Kovacs, basically everything. Basically dedicated my life for it. I even chucked away year 12 for it. I hope my parents aren't watching. I chucked away year 12 for it. I was so into this shit. The only reason I really stopped it was because, one, I stopped having fun, and two, it was like not my passion, right? I really found my passion with this. And so for people that like think they could just start and kind of just get straight to that point where they're streaming with thousands of views, making so much money, or where they could start and straight away get signed by an organization, it's really not that easy. I will say it's easier in Australia than America. That's what I will say. I think in Australia, with the less pool, you know, there's more, like, if you're good, you'll stand out, right? In the same way, it's fluctuated, that if you're really good, you stand out. If you're really bad, you stay there. There's no real medium ground in Australia, I think. And so, you know, for people that are wanting to pursue it, you can't do it as a joke. You can't do it as a side hustle. That has to be your main thing if you really want to, one, make money, and two, make it your real stuff.
Yeah, you're right, man. And I think the best thing of esports as well, my best advice is, if you are seriously considering being a professional, I recommend you do have like a genuine backup plan. Because with these sort of all-in maneuvers in your life, like say you want to be a professional boxer, say you want to be a professional sprinter, like these things that you genuinely have to invest a crap ton of time in order to be a truly elite thing, you have to have a backup plan. For me, I believe, like with these things where you're sacrificing so much time, because otherwise it's going to be difficult for you to sort of be like, okay, so what do I do now? I've failed at this certain thing. Of course, there's plenty of different like games that come out and different opportunities as well. But I think generally, just to be on the safe side, that maybe like even some people who do competitive gaming do like study as well, right? That's like reasonably common. Or some people who are very talented at gaming are still even at school, so they're juggling that type of thing, which is, you know, very admirable as well. So
and let me just say one thing, like a lot of people get into it and they just game, but they don't do like they don't make YouTube channel, they don't make videos on it, they don't go on Twitch and broadcast, and they think that they're doing something, but really they're not, because you're getting good at a game, you're playing every day, you're doing what you love, but at the same time, are you building something out of it? No, you're not. You know what I mean? You
just touched me in Racquet's heart, because I was coaching as well for a little bit as well. So we had players who would literally sit there playing games like ranked, especially, right? Uncontrollably. I'm talking like 24 hours a day, order food to their house, and we're like, bro, like you have to play with the purpose, like have a goal in mind. You know what I mean? Because gaming is that nature where it's very addictive. For one, I have to say gaming is addictive, and two, you can play without being guarded, right? You can play for fun and still think you're playing in a professional stance. But if you're queuing up, and by that I mean if you're playing games like with other people of your same level constantly, and not trying to learn something from the games and just going for points, the same way people post and just go for followers rather than getting like, you know, their message across. In the same way in gaming, you have to play for a purpose, right? You have to play to either improve your aim, to have something in mind for the things you're doing. It's exactly like traditional sports, you know? You can't just fuck around in the field and just play footy with your mates forever and try to get into AFL. You know what I mean? In the same way, you can't do the shit that people are doing in ranked nowadays.
Bro, let me just say this, right? Every time I get on Valorant, and I like when I play Valorant, I'll play one game and I'm off. But even one game, I always screen record it. So in case I ever want to pursue gaming, I have a ton of clips. I'm ready to kickstart my YouTube channel. So Mark, Zoris Media, in case, you know. I'm coming for you, Alex. You're my coach.
I started the intro to my vlog with the fucking montage, and everyone roasted me for it. But you just trying new things. All right, let's talk sustainability, right? So you know, you can get a career out of esports. We've established that people make a lot of money from playing games. You know, we have prestigious organizations in Australia, some that I've personally dealt with: Avant, Fury. Alex, help me out here, bro. I haven't been in for a while.
You've been part of Legacy as well, right?
Legacy, you know, lots of different organizations. And these organizations have paired with AFL as well, right? So these are real big organizations. Now, how sustainable are the contracts players are getting, coaches, casters, whatever they are? How sustainable are those contracts getting to be able to like make it your full-time job? How sustainable is it right now?
Okay, so I'm going to break it up to two categories. So for me, Australia is in a completely different category, and I'll label Australia along with like some minor regions as well, right? So Australia esports is probably a little bit smaller, and we don't have as much interest here than other countries. So say for America, even if you are technically a worse team by definition, you can still get a sustainable salary as a team, right? So you could legitimately have an Australian team that is better than an American team, but because of how popular it is in America and the sponsorship drag that they can generate, they can have a better salary, right? Yeah. So for Australia, it's a bit more of a question mark. I think the top tier organizations have a bit more of a better shot at making their players a little bit more satisfied when it comes to
for sure.
Their contractual obligations. But if we're talking about, like, say, I'll use the Overwatch League as an example. Overwatch League Hat 2, by the way. They are, a lot of their players are set on contracts, so that itself is reasonably good because it's something that they can hold on to, right? It's tangible. They know what they're going to get, because if you have a sort of esport that relies on a system, I'll use tennis as a system actually, as well to relate it to. So for example, like CSGO, they're called majors. So the tournaments scheduled around the world that the top teams compete at, right? So are related to tennis. In tennis, there are Grand Slams. And if you participate in these Grand Slams, the more, so if you get first place, obviously you're going to get way more money than the person who, gets eliminated in the first round. For sure, right? Yeah. So that's a little bit less sustainable, but it's a more prize pool type format. But the organizations will still, that are in that sort of major, will give them a base rate anyway, so, to keep things going. So it depends what sort of situation these teams are in. As I said, Europe, America, these types of countries, Korea especially as well, China, these really big countries that have a lot more of a base in esports, I definitely think it is very feasible. But minor regions, it's a little bit of a question mark. It's a gray area, I feel.
Yeah. Nice. And that's the thing, right? Like, esports follows the same principles of business anyway, supply and demand. There's not much demand in Australia, let's be honest. Organizations, unless you get lucky and get picked up by a fucking South American organization like me, but like, unless you get that lucky, right? That was luck. I have to admit, it was luck. Like, I worked my ass off to get that, but it was pretty lucky that, random organization who had perfectly good talent in their region decided to go to Australia, right? And so when there's not that much demand, there's not going to be that much supply, which is why probably, let's be honest, why we're here today, at least, that we actually left that scene, right? The demand's not there, right? We understand supply and demand. And so, it sets such a high bar for anyone trying to get into it, especially from Australia, right? It doesn't feel realistic. It feels, for me, like I was about to get to this question, what path do you reckon is the most practical? Casting, coaching, or playing? But for me, I was going to say content creating. Right now, I think as a gamer in Australia, if you really, because not only will you create a following for yourself, by the way, NFTs as well, like we'll get onto that soon, but not only are you creating a following for yourself, creating that demand, because you can get international reach through like, YouTube, things like that. You're not going to get that by playing in ranked queues, right? You're not going to get that international reach. Yeah. So you get that international reach, you build a following for yourself, you build an interest into your gameplay. Like, for example, that little kid, I'm not going to mention his name because no one's going to know who he is, but Micro, right? Like, he posted all of his clips all over Twitter. Everyone in America knew about him, right? And so the thing is, it's like when you do that, you create demand for yourself and your character. So then contracts will become more sustainable. Organizations will be more willing to pay. I knew heaps of teams at the time who were paying players more than other players and telling those players to sign NDAs, not to tell the other players, right? And that's not a secret. Everyone should know that by now, that the best players, the DPSs, the stars, they were getting paid way more than the supports, the tanks, and that type of thing, right? So the nature of that is that, where do you think is the most suitable path for someone? Should they force themselves to be in a different path just to be in that gaming niche, or should they just chase what they want?
It's difficult to say. I think the good thing is of esports is that there's no real barrier for you to enter. Right. I suppose the ceiling is really high, but the entry is really low. That would be my basic definition of it, right? So as a player, it probably might be the hardest, if I'm being completely honest. If you're younger, and I suppose if you do have a lot of talent and you have a lot of time on your hands, maybe it'll be a little bit easier for you. But generally, the older you get, it's more difficult there. But at least my case for commentating, there was a Discord server that someone just posted randomly that they're doing community games and they'd want a commentator over it. And I just legitimately just said, hey, I'd like to do this. So there wasn't any like thing I had to sign. There wasn't anyone that I had to do like intense conversations with. There wasn't like a job interview type process. With community type tournaments, a lot of the commentators end up doing those because there's no restriction in you, commentating it. And then after that, getting some experience, then you can start building yourself up as a brand and getting some paid work. For coaching, it's a little bit of a gray area for me as well. It doesn't really have a barrier, so to speak, but I feel like if you're a bad coach, then you will get figured out by your players
very quickly.
So yes, you have to be genuinely intelligent to be a coach. There are a lot of bad coaches roaming around in esports. There are what I like to call intense nerds that have a lot of analytics behind them. They know absolutely every algorithm, micro, macro inside the game, but they wouldn't know how to tell a player to shut up or listen to them, so it doesn't matter.
Literally,
so there are two types of coaches, one that can gather the troops and tell them what to do, but they won't have the advances, or the other coach that knows everything about the game but doesn't know how to communicate to the players. So coaching is in the middle ground. So yeah, every avenue is accessible, but it's up to you which one you would want to do, and I think at the moment it's not too bad considering COVID times, everyone's inside, a lot more tournaments are being run online, so yeah.
Speaking about coaches, like me, I'm coming from a non-gaming experience kind of thing, right? Like how do I say it? Like, what do coaches bring to the table when it comes to gaming? You know what I mean?
Do you want me to do it, Alex, first, or you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, well, I just felt good because I was a coach, so I can answer. Coaching is like crazy in esports. I think a lot of it, and I've like done traditional sports, but obviously not at a high level. Usually in traditional sports, there's a lot of guards, like there's a lot of teams, they have counselors, they have this, they have that. In esports, at least at the high level, right before you get to Overwatch League, like right before you get to the AFL, let's say, there's no real guard. The coach does everything. He does the managing, he does the scrim setup, he does the mental stuff, he does the strategizing, he basically does everything, right? Yeah. And so when it comes to coaching, and I'll let you elaborate, Alex, is that you have to have teacher level delivery. Teachers are really good at delivering things, but sometimes they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Yeah. You need to have teacher level delivery, but also have the knowledge that is so important to your players. And I'll let you elaborate on that, Alex.
Yeah, you're totally right, man. And as you sort of hinted at before, it gets better and better as like the levels go up, right? So the most difficult part of coaching is starting up, because you genuinely have to juggle all these different roles. But when you do get to the grand stage, you'll be facilitated with support staff, almost as if it was a real sport. You have like a psychologist, you have analysts, you have people who track data, all these different types of roles.
Hey guys, sorry to cut it, but I think we got cut out on the live on Facebook.
No way, really? Come on, bro. We already had one live stream cut. It looks like we're still good though. Like I'm watching it, and I just saw myself drink water. I'm pretty sure I just drink water now.
Oh,
hello, Mark?
Yeah, I'm just double checking, just so
double checking.
Because I heard a mark in my house, so that normally means the live has stopped working.
It says sorry, we're having trouble with playing this video.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, Facebook and Instagram didn't have problems today.
Yeah,
they were down this morning.
That's probably why my streaming platform didn't work.
We're still live on Twitch, so Twitch is working.
Oh, okay. All right, what's up, guys? Sorry about that.
So just keep going. I'll fix it up.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I said, like the levels of coaching differ. At the start, it's going to be your absolute hardest because you genuinely have to play like the mother and do everything for your kids at home.
Yeah,
you have to cook, you have to clean, all those shenanigans like as the coach. Yeah, so it's a very has a general skill set, I feel, but you genuinely have to know a bunch about the game, because once I said, the players will figure you out.
100. And the thing with coaching in esports is like you said, like not the best coaches, they get recognized straight away, because it's very easy to tell someone who has knowledge but no delivery, and then someone who has delivery but no knowledge, right? And you really have to find the happy medium, because people that have knowledge will literally sit there speaking for 50 minutes to an hour and their players are literally they're playing Kovacs in the background. They're like fuck this, man.
Hey, they're sleeping half the time.
They're sleeping, and I was one of them, right? Like I was one of them. I used to think, bro, I'm gonna go analyze this VOD for 5 hours. And anyone that's been in my teams knows I used to get people to literally sit there and watch VODs for 3 hours before I became like a pretty good coach with like South American teams and that type of thing. And so, you know, finding that happy medium gets you straight up there, right? It's very quickly because players in a way, it's different because players end up knowing a little bit more than the coach, but the coach is better at portraying it. I think that's how esports work. I think players at the highest level know more than the coaches because with esports, it's just like any sports. You have to play it to know it, I think. And so, but the delivery and the bigger scheme of things, like the third person scheme of things, coaches know more, right? And so there's a constant battle of knowledge, which is why players have to give up their knowledge. But let's not get too much into esports because pretty much literally, I mean, maybe the Twitch followers will know a little bit about it. But, you know, going into, so which one was your favorite? Like, you know, casting, coaching, playing, you've done it all. Which one was your favorite by far?
Okay, so I'm going to give you two answers. I had the best experience as a coach when I got to boot camp and see all my players in real life when we were practicing for a final. You know, we were staying at a apartment. We had, you know, a pool, ping pong tables, had our dinner shouted, everything. It was phenomenal. Got to meet the whole team squad. You know, seeing your players in person is just a mesmerizing experience as a coach. Makes it much easier. Yeah. But overall, I think I enjoy commentating the most. And when you really like a game and you commentate over it, I feel like it makes your work better. So as an artist of some sort, wherever your passion lies, that's where you will get the most out of what you're doing.
Yeah.
100%, and that's the most important thing, right? Like, because I asked you, like, would you advise people to force themselves into a position just because there's more supply for it? Definitely not. Or more demand, sorry. Definitely not, right? Like, you got to have your passion there. When you're playing and coaching for years without any recognition, it's like people who think you're crazy by that point, right? But like at this stage, like esports is a business just like our business, right? We would speak on this podcast like we have 100 viewers or if we have 0 viewers, it's the same thing for us, right? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we want to give our knowledge.
And let's look at it this way, right? When Ninja became famous all of a sudden, he said he was going at it for years and years and years. So when you don't, and I said this last time, right? When you don't stop, you'll know that, like, say you're going for 10 years and you keep failing, yeah? Yeah. But if you do that, and that 11th year, you'll know that, like, if you do that 11th year and you succeeded, like, that's what matters. Like, I'm juggling on my words today, but you guys know what I'm saying.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, like don't give up on the last step. Keep going, because then that's the. Yeah, you know what I mean.
For sure. And I think honestly, like from my honest opinion, viewing the esports scene now, having left it for about 2-3 years, I think the social media side of it is horrible. I think people don't advertise their work enough. People aren't looking into new places to put their thing. Like, the reason organizations are the way they are, right? And for anyone that's wondering what I'm talking about, organizations in Australia, I don't know about now, I won't talk shit on anyone. Organizations in Australia when I was playing were horrible, okay? Yeah. Underpaid players, didn't put value on coaches, casters, whatever it was. There were always unfair contracts. And because players were constantly looking for something, anything to get recognition, they'll sign, right? Yeah. And these were young kids as well. Right? Mind you, they're young kids under 18, and it's not illegal, but it's obviously a power dynamic, right? We'll give you the world, we'll give you the money, we'll give you the esports house, we'll give you this. Fucking oath, I would sign, right? I would sign. So, the problem is that social media has opened the world of esports, right? The more social media grows, the more esports grows. The esports industry is a multinational billion-dollar industry, right? And you can't undermine that. No. If I was deep in esports right now, I'd be creating content at the same level that I'm creating content for Zorus Media, honestly. I'd be posting 4 TikToks a day. I'd be having my own Instagram. I'd be doing all of that, right? And gamers, like, for me personally, I don't mean to like generalize, I love you all, generally are introverts. Right? Generally speaking, they're introverts, right? People that enjoy time by themselves, they're very like extroverted on gaming, but generally when you're playing on a computer, you're going to be mostly alone, right? So obviously they're not going to be comfortable to get on camera. Streaming was like that first step. Why are people so hesitant like what I personally can't understand, to advertise their branding, to add value. Like I said, add value to themselves so that the contracts become more fair. Organizations want people that have demand for them, right?
Yeah.
All the people that went on to like AFL, like the AFL version of Overwatch, right? All the people that went there, they sold themselves, right? Sold themselves through streaming, sold themselves through clips, sold themselves through all different social platforms. But now there's kids who just think, you know, fuck it, I'll be so good. I'll, like, you know, they'll see me in the top 500 ranks, you know, they'll see me here, they'll see me there. No one cares, man. No one cares. Literally, no one cares, right? No one's gonna come looking for you in any industry in the world. Okay, you got to look for them. You have to be put in front of them, right? Marketing and advertising is the most underrated feature of esports. Had I have known what I know now, I honestly reckon I would have made it to the point where I was and further way earlier. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I feel like there are teams and there are esports organizations that genuinely do have a very good social media presence, but there's not enough of them. There's not enough of them. It should really be a priority of most esports organizations to have a very good social media presence, because where is a lot of their content being viewed? On the internet. So that should always be their priority, right? And building up players, I feel like even towards like tournaments or you know, having a personality shown, these are the type of things that people genuinely want to see, because you look at the most marketable you know, sports people, you know, LeBron James, you know that name, you know, Lionel Messi, you know, Roger Federer, like these really big names. Why do you know their names? It's because of what they've done, and it's because of how much content has been based on them, right? There is legitimately an archive, so many things you can look at the best of the best. And in esports, I feel like it's sort of, they're underselling a lot of their players. There's so many good storylines. I mean, esports has been going for a fair amount of years. I think the Koreans were the first to sort of kick it off. But there are so many really good storylines. I think Riot actually have done a decent job in their newest video that they released. So just to contextualize things, Riot Games, they're a maker of League of Legends. They release a music video every time their World Championship comes up. And the music video, it sort of looks like an anime type thing where they have their players all drawn and sketched in animation, and they have like the characters that they play as like a hybrid. So you know, like who they are and the characters that they play, and you get to see them battle each other, going for like the top spot for millions of dollars. Like that's the type of thing that you want to see, right? To hype up a tournament, to build players, right? And this isn't up to, you know, the esports organizations a lot of the time to do this as well. Like, esports organizations should be doing it by default, but I think players should be doing it by default as well. You have that initiative yourself. If you're really good, upload montages all the time. If you have a personality, show your personality. I mean, look at XQC, right? XQC is a person who is one of the most popular streamers on Twitch. He was at Overwatch League, getting a bunch of bank there, but has made more money Twitch streaming because he has such like a controversial personality, right? He built 100%. His own brand off that shit. So, you know, there's multiple ways to go through.
Play. I still watch XQC and I don't even play. Like, I'm just in love, but I'm like an XQC fanboy, right? And you know, like, it's all good to talk about how the $1 million industries are doing it, right? But let's be honest, like, it doesn't matter where you are in the scheme of things. You could be silver, bronze, gold, platinum, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? Because you still have the capacity to do what we're doing, right? You still have the capacity to jump on a podcast. You have the capacity to clip your shit and change the ratio to fit it onto TikTok. You have the capacity for all of that. So I don't want to hear anyone, like, honestly, to everyone watching, if you're trying to become a gamer, content creator, whatever, I don't want to hear that you're trying unless you're producing at least 20 pieces of content a day, at least, minimum. I'm being dead serious. Because think about it, right? When we're talking supply and demand, how big is esports? How are you meant to be recognized in any other way, right? No one gives a fuck about the skill, because no organization is going to be able to read how good a player is. They're the management side of it, right? They like the big videos. They like the memes. They like that. They like this, right? But the organizations, like the CEO of Avant, is not going to know how good an Overwatch player's aim is going to be, right? He's not going to know that. But he will know that millions of people are resharing your clips, right? And so there really is no excuse for any player not building a brand around themselves right now. No excuse. Nothing.
Look at it this way, right? I've been monitoring with this guy that's Twitch's Fortnite. and I seen him going live on he uses TikTok lives to get more people to come to his Twitch. Like, I don't know if you guys have realized, but recently Twitch has become like very saturated. Like you have to like either get, what's that thing called, like where the big streamers come into your lobby.
Host.
Yeah. So if you want to get like to get big, you need a big streamer to come and host your stream. You know what I mean? So what a lot of these gamers are doing nowadays, they're going on TikTok posting their clips until they reach 1,000 followers, and then they're using that live, because with lives a lot of people can come into it, right? It doesn't only mean your followers. So that live, they get them to come to their Twitch. And as you know, like TikTok is 70% like kids that play games. So that makes it so easy for you to get like streams, to get followers on Twitch, that, and that can just build your profile up. And just posting clips on TikTok, bro, like of like playing games and shit like that. People love that, bro. Like not only kids, like I love watching that shit, especially the storytelling, the story ones, the GTA ones, if you know which one I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. And I watch GTA roleplay all the time.
It goes hard, bro. And like Alex, I don't want to like this. I wanted to touch on something. I realized with your Instagram, you're not active there, right? Why is that?
Why is that, Alex?
Mate, I'm not very active. I think my last post was like 2 years ago, to be honest.
I'll verify it.
Verify that, Hosri.
Because like with Instagram right now, honestly, like we had a blackout, that, but it's because they're testing new things right now.
Right.
So they're coming with some big things to you.
14th of October 2020.
Nearly one year.
Nearly there, mate. Nearly there, the anniversary.
I think use the platform to post like reels of your YouTube videos, bro. I've seen your YouTube videos, like the reactions and stuff. Some of them are blown up on YouTube, bro. Use those clips, put them on like reels and stuff, and watch it just go off. Even like as an IGTV and shit like that.
For sure.
Yeah, a good point about that is like distributing what you have on a primary content source to other things, right?
Yeah.
And it's honestly not too difficult, because I think throughout the past year, the obsession for everyone having on short form content, having like a clip of something, and then they see it and they're like, oh, I wonder what like the full version of this is, or whatever, and then they click on it and they're like, oh, hey, now I can see this person in their long form content, and if I just want to watch their short shit, I can do that too. So yeah, I completely understand that.
Because like people on like TikTok and Instagram and like those platforms, they like to see short stuff. Like they're not gonna sit there watch a 20-minute video, right? So when they see a short form video and they're like, shit, I like this, and then you have in your caption, click the link in my bio to watch the full video, they're gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna do that. Because that's like talking from experience. I see shit I like, I'll go, if they're on TikTok, I'll go watch all their videos on TikTok. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
100%.
You gotta like see something to know what that whole thing is about.
For sure. And I'll just address the comments in Twitch. Someone said, God damn, who's that handsome king in the hat? So it's either Mark or Alex. We'll go with Alex since he's the guest. Dang, your guest is handsome. I know, look at him, he's gorgeous. Anyway, listen. Now, Alex, you're like one of the best unofficial mindset coaches there are, all right? I've certified that title for you, okay? I'll tell you why. You break my mind, and like I'm one of the most stubborn people. You can ask Mark, all right? You can ask Mark. I'm one of the most stubborn people. How important do you think that is right now in esports to have a non-yes man critiquing and honestly kind of like a coach, but a mentor at the same time? How important do you think it is? Because when I'm playing, even at the top level, now when we say top, we mean top of Australia, so not Overwatch League, right under it, right? There weren't a lot of mentors. The coach would do all three, right? And while that works to build relationships with the players, that's fine. But at the same time, I definitely think that mentors and counselors and that type of thing is so important. Let me attach to that. Gaming is a toxic environment as well, right? It can be. We can't deny it. Have you ever been in a COD Warzone lobby? Fuck your mom, you're a dog, blah blah blah. Like it's gaming, right? It's the culture, bro. It's the culture. We can't deny it. So, and especially because people aren't face to face, you can say whatever the fuck you want. I could jump on a Smurf and go to your game and be like, yo, fuck you, and you won't know who I am. No repercussions, right? So counseling and mental health and really just like a proper mindset coach, I believe, is so important for anyone in esports, right? How important do you think it is?
Yeah, it's a very underrated factor, since a lot of the people that play video games, as you alluded to earlier, are introverted and probably won't have the same social grasp as what you would class as like an everyday type person, right? So usually they're not as accustomed to certain things. I also think it's pretty important to understand where the line is for a lot of people and sort of distribute yourself and understand how to communicate to someone properly. So, I mean, one of the things that I'm going to be studying in a few months is counseling, and then after that, psychology. So I'm like hoping to learn more about this type of subject. But in my opinion, it's important to understand when to be a yes man and when to be critical. Right, so they're two different opposing philosophies, right? For me, it's important to build up friends so that it's important to build up your friends so they have the confidence to express themselves and that they can truly embrace who they are, right? But it is also important to be critical so you can help them find the best person of the best sort of version of themselves at the same time, if that makes any sense. So they try to achieve the same thing but in different ways. I'm a person that, like, I would class myself as pretty critical. Like if I see something exciting right in front of me, my first reaction is like, okay, there must be something fucking wrong with it, you know? Like,
doesn't that sound like you, Mark?
It sounds like an asshole mindset, but I think in order to develop excellence, you need to strive for the absolute best, and that applies to every asset in life. And if you are confident in yourself, and if you can dissect things in real life and sort of, or in esports or in gaming, whatever you do, and figure out how they work, what the mechanism is behind it, what drives it, what's appealing to you, what's appealing to people, then I feel like things get a little bit easier.
100%.
Yeah, and I'll pass it on to you, Mark. But I just want to say welcome to Zorus Media Clips. After that one, I've already got it registered in my head. I'm gonna schedule the time, and welcome to Zorus Media Clips.
Now, bro, honestly, like, psychology plays a lot of game into like the business world, the gaming world, is that right? And a lot of people like talk about mental health, this, that, and how it's like an important topic, but what they don't know is their people's lives. Like say for example, me and Mark doing Zorus Media and then you doing gaming, two different worlds, right? But when it comes to mental health, it's the same thing. Because yes, we love doing what we're doing, but there are days when, like, you know, like, we love getting out of bed to do what we love, right? But there are days when you're like I'm just out of it. It's not working for me, this, that. Am I ever gonna make it? You start feeling that kind of depression, and it's a whole different kind of depression. It's not the depression that you feel when you're like, oh shit, I just lost $20 gambling, you know, or maybe like my cat died. Like, not dissing anyone like that, but like I'm saying, like, no, like, in all honesty,
oh my god,
no, I'm talking.
Alex's cat died. Rest in peace, Alex's cat. Anyway,
I'm talking about the passion side and the business side of depression, right? Because that is a whole different side. And like, you're doing psych now, right? All I'm gonna say is, good luck, bro. You're gonna hate your life.
Thanks for the tip, mate.
I love psychology, but the practicality of it and fucking going in and doing all the science for it, I hated it. Like, I want to talk to other people and say, "Are you okay?" But past that, I can't be fucked, right?
No,
anyway.
I love it, right? But it's the essays. But let me just touch on, before we were talking about marketing and all that stuff, right? You guys know about the new show Squid Game, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna give you a heads up. This has to do with marketing. So with Squid Game, have you guys seen what the red guys look like?
Yeah.
I'll put it on the screen when we make a clip out of this later. But they have like the X, the O, the triangle, and shit like that. Yeah. Does that remind you of anything? Just like, because this is about gaming as well. How about this? What console do you guys prefer?
Okay,
PlayStation?
Like PlayStation.
Yeah, see?
Oh.
Have you guys heard about subconscious marketing?
Yeah,
so subconscious marketing is done through, like, they do stuff like, say for example, it's Apple, they'll have an Apple next to a computer that's not an Apple computer. In your head, you're like, shit, I need to go buy a MacBook, right? So
you're great. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, so that's in a way that's what they've done. Because look at it this way. Squid Game. It's an Asian show, right?
Yeah.
Who made PlayStation?
So Sony, I think.
Sony made the PlayStation. Who owns Sony?
It's
an Asian guy, yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you also like go back to their scenes, they had the black phones, and those phones, I don't know if you can tell, but they kind of looked like Sony phones, and Sony owns PlayStation. So you see that like this, like marketing and gaming at the same time. Like, see what's happened there? Like,
I just wrote in the chat what everyone was thinking.
I had to touch on it. I had to touch on it.
Conspiracy theory or marketing, we'll never know. We'll never know. but you know, like.
But look at it, right? Like,
my man, wait,
it could be something.
Dissed Alex's dead cat and also spoke about
that. Yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry if your cat has died. I didn't know.
That's right, man.
I lost my train of thought. All right. Yeah. So that, like, going back to the most important part of this conversation, that the mental health for players really matters, right? Yeah. It does really matter. And as a gamer myself, having to fluctuate between being confident in game and not being egotistical out is such a hard balance. I could say strongly from the bottom of my heart, I was the biggest asshole in esports, right? And I wasn't even the biggest. So, you know, you could tell what esports is all about. So I'm sorry to anyone I would have done wrong shit with. But anyway, like, it's really hard to find that balance, right? And as a player, you're put on a pedestal when you make a play, but that play could be really bad in the circumstances of the game. I'm not going to get into it. Obviously, no one will understand what I'm saying. But obviously, there's star moments for gamers, right? Yeah. They hit lots of clips, that type of thing. Now, that balance between doing something consistently and just being an aim one trick, like, for example, only excelling at one thing as opposed to all things, is really important. And coaches do go into that, but they don't go into the mental game behind it, right? And it's why I believe in the few years that I predicted NFTs for esports. I was right. NFTs are now blowing up for esports. I'm predicting this as well. The demand for mental health counselors, that type of thing in esports is going to be huge in the coming years. Esports will continue, but if it's in a similar environment to Overwatch, Counter-Strike, Valorant, that type of thing, right? I think the demand is going to be there so much so that mental health people that are usually dealing with just normal people, right? Because of coronavirus, because of digitalization and everything, they're going to start moving over to doing gaming, right? Zoom calls, you know, all that type of thing. What do you think about the demand for that in the coming years?
I think it very well could be true, man. That seems like a realistic thing, because mental health is a subject that a lot of people are touchy about talking about, and you can help people without being qualified to, but I feel like at the same time you could also damage them. Yeah. So being qualified to know the ins and outs of a conversation and having to communicate yourself to someone is really, really important when it comes to that industry, because it's a double-edged sword. Because if you're a person who hasn't studied this type of thing and you try to cheer someone up, maybe you could actually hurt them a little bit more. You know, so if there are people who are more qualified that are willing to get into the industry, and as you said, Hosri, it is a high demand type thing, I feel, then it definitely is going to excel up into the future.
Yeah, can I just, I have an opposing view to that, because no, like a lot of gamers, right? I'm not trying to be like, a lot of gamers are boys, like male, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, like even if they're like girls and stuff, right? That doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is, a lot of guys, they tend to not share their feelings. They're like more closed up.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's not going to be a big thing in like the mental health spectre, as in psychologists. It's not gonna like.
Yeah, but I mean, bro, like we're in 2021. Like, are you okay? Day is not. You walk up to your mom and you say, "Are you okay?" And then you say,
I know what you mean. But like, I'm gonna ask this question to you guys, right?
Yeah, go for it.
You're depressed. Is that you have mental health issues? Would you seek professional help? And like, you might say yes now, but when you're in that position, maybe, I don't know. I'll let you answer.
Do you mean from game? Do you mean being in the gaming industry and having that, or just in general? Because probably in the gaming industry, right? When you're pursuing a gaming career and you have that type of thing behind you, kind of as like a cloud of like baggage that you have to carry around.
from the gaming,
from the gaming perspective.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first, Alex?
If we're directly relating it to gaming, I think people would be incentivized to do it because you would associate it with performance, if that makes any sense.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
So that is the best way to motivate someone. If because you're completely right in saying that it is something that like a male would be like pretty closed off in doing generally, right? Because they have pride in themselves or whatever, or they want to keep to themselves, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if it's an incentive to say that, okay, if this is fixed, then I could be potentially better at what I'm doing. That is like I suppose the difference in it. If they don't see a way in that it can improve their performance, maybe they don't do it at all. But if it does, then it can be a little bit more accessible, I feel.
That's a valid point.
For sure. My opinion is no. I personally don't seek professional help. That's just me.
He comes to me.
Yeah, I come to mine. Like,
hey, he's a professional, mate. Come on.
I don't want to speak bad on professional help. I will say during gaming, if every single team had some type of mental counselor, like not even like a high paid mental counselor, someone that actually someone that has a passion for helping wanting to see gamers succeed. I had more players come to me as mental assistants, right? Shout out Sad Boy, shout out Jordation, shout out Racquet, shout out all those people, right? Like I had more people like that come to me when shit was just not going right. Yeah, and it felt like a joke because it was a little bit of a game, but also like it was my career, like that was my life at the time. Okay, it's like I had more of that than I ever did from any organization I was with, and that's not to talk bad on the organization because that's the precedent that's set. Until you get into Overwatch League, you don't get the sources. You're meant to struggle and hustle, whatever. That's fine, I understand. Yeah. But if they spent less money on shitty coaches that charge more and more on mental health, then their players would be so good that they can coach themselves, right? Self-coaching is something very important, right? Controversial, of course, I agree. You do need a third-person perspective. But players that are hypercritical of their own gameplay and have a really balanced mindset, right? Like, I could name names, but no one will know them. But yeah, like those type, like Molotov, all right? Let's just use Molotov as an example. Like, those type of players who can be hypercritical of themselves and their team are like self-coaches. Yeah, that creates some different dynamics. But if you spend more money on that, and it translates to performance, I know because I've literally been in, like, Koreans have a massive focus on this mental health thing. Massive, right? They understand. We had players who were top of the top in Overwatch League Racquet. You know who I'm talking, like Pine, right? All these players who struggled with mental health, their skill level meant nothing if they couldn't participate, right? And so, it's something that is just needs more investment into, right? And if it was there for me, yes, I would have accessed it. But the fact that it's not there for me, no, I wouldn't have gone looking for it. I would have thought that this is the struggle. You're hustling up to become something in the future. You have to fight your own demons. I know it's not true. I know it's not true now, and I'm not preaching that it's true, but that's my honest mindset. And that was my mindset when I was pushing through it. I would have never got the organization, the money, anything that I got if I hadn't have had that mindset. And so that's how it worked for me.
Yeah,
fair
enough, man. Fair enough, mate.
Yeah.
We're really deep into it now. Yeah,
like it's something that I'm passionate because I know a lot of players will be going through it. Like we get when we started on Zorus Media on Twitter, I'd have to say is predominantly where most gamers are right now. 100%. Yeah, casters, commentators, streamers, whatever it is. So when we started on Twitter, we had a lot of NFT fans, a lot of gaming fans, right? We still do. So a lot of them were messaging me like, how do I get started? Blah, blah, blah. Like, bro, you got to push, bro. You got to push, And the fact that they speak to me about like, not having the resources and stuff, like I know that organizations have the money to put in. Why? Because they're underpaying their players and coaches anyway. So the rest of the money has to go somewhere, right? It's either into the infrastructure or into themselves, right? And so if they just put more investment into it and it's looked at as more of a serious topic, then I believe the results will speak for themselves. And like that's basically the message I wanted to get across.
That's a good message to send across, mate.
Sure.
Actually, for the record, there is someone floating around in Valorant. I think her name is Michelle. Please, maybe someone will correct me in the future that like hovered between a couple of teams. Facilitating I believe one of the players that ended up going to the Olympics, Magnet Brain.
Oh right, yeah,
Paralympian.
Yeah.
So there are people qualified floating around in the space, but having them more accessible and, you know, just designated to certain teams will make things a lot better as a resource for players.
For sure. And you know, like that, you know, it's something that people are too scared to talk about. Why? Because performance is always seen above what comes in before it. It's the same with business, right? People only see the finishing result. They see me talking a lot of shit and they're like, bruh, this man, like, he does not shut the fuck up. But I do a lot of listening in the background, right? Because I talk on things that people will be interested in, right? So always the finished product gets seen, the clips, the stars, that type of thing. But what goes on behind the scenes is never really put some importance on. And that's what we wanted to highlight through this episode. Now, going back to you, Alex, where do you see yourself in 5 years? We have to ask, the typical
like a job interview.
It's our typical podcast question. We can't go a whole episode without it. It's too much.
5 years, mate. Hopefully a licensed psychologist or working towards it. I'll definitely be a counselor by then at least. And I hope if the esports scene is still lively, that I can transition those skills, make some content creation around it, and awesome. help out some young lads trying to make it. So that's awesome. My sort of passion where it lies. So I'm lining them both up together, and hopefully we can find a happy medium. But yeah, that's probably one of the goals of mine.
Now, the last... did you have something to touch on, Mark?
I had, but I forgot the question when you asked that last question.
I'm so sorry, bro.
That's all good. It'll come to me.
The last point I wanted to touch on, and I'll let you slide with this one, is that you should always have a backup plan. Now, Gary Vee, the king Gary Vee, right? He tells me, he has a podcast episode, and I watched the whole thing 3 times. He said, what happens when your backup plan fucks up your main plan? By that, I mean, what happens when you put too much time into uni and you fuck up what gaming could be? For me, I don't know where I stand on this. Why? Because I'm hypocritical. I'm doing uni and I'm running a business at the same time. Now, we spend so much time, and namely me, and I always say I spent 90% of my life thinking about what I wanted to do and 10% executing, right? And I was going to do the same with Zorus Media, like I do with everything else. But I decided, fuck it, I'm going to go in and I'm just going to see how it goes, right? Because it's hard to decide whether, because, okay, I'll give you an example. If I quit uni and put, let's say, an extra 3-4 days into Zorus Media, right? And that makes it the company that I want it to be, right?
Right.
That's good. But at the same time, if I stay in uni to finish whatever I want as my backup plan, and then I have Zorus Media as well, right? Then I can reach that goal probably slower, but I'll reach it in a different way. And people get stuck on this issue all the time, especially gamers. Remember, everyone on Twitter, every 5 months, I'm quitting esports. I'm back. I'm quitting. I'm back. Literally, Mark, you had to see this shit. Mark, if you were in the esports scene, people left esports more than guys leave their girlfriends. All right, literally, bro. It was that bad. It was like a toxic relationship. So I lost my point now. So going back, how what were we talking about? What's that?
Mate.
This one's all you, bro.
Yeah, it's all you, Jose, mate.
Did you want me to send my question and you come back to it?
Yeah, go.
I'll just take a sip of my drink, mate.
No, so Alex, like, we ask this to a lot of people that come on, and like, it's something that it is seen in every single niche. It's not only gaming, it's not only business. Is that like being unique? What does that mean to be like unique in the gaming industry? Because I've seen a lot of people try to copy Ninja, try to copy the face people, this, that, and like that just doesn't go anywhere. Like, what does it mean to just be yourself and make videos just around being you?
It's a good question, because the market is so incredibly big, right? So you actually have to be really, really unique. You can't be, unique. You have to be special. I think, to even push that even further. It's a good question, and I feel like you have to, like, some people have gone to extreme things. Like, you genuinely have to sit down and think, what can I do that someone else hasn't done before, right? There are characters on Twitch, and when I mean characters, I literally use the word characters that dress up in a different uniform. I'm going to use Dr. Disrespect as like a as like an example, a famous Twitch streamer that is literally in a costume with sunglasses, a long hair wig, and a bloody army vest on, right? And he's acting as like this really brash dude, you know, roasting people and stuff like that. Like, but that's unique, and he's created his own separate niche, right? You have people, I guess a more modern example that is a little bit controversial. People are making ASMR things on Twitch, right? Yeah. Fully clothed or not fully clothed, mate. That's where the line is for some people. But you know, using what you think can sort of give you that burst, you know, like trying to identify what is so unique about yourself and expressing it, because you don't have to necessarily create a character. You don't have to necessarily do something so weird. Yeah. You just have to find what you can do and sustain it for a while too. So if you can create content reliably on a daily basis, if you can express yourself in a fine manner, if you can research the topics that you're actually good at and sound like a reasonable person, then I think people would dig you.
Yeah. For sure. And you know, going back
did you figure out what you're talking about, husband?
Yeah, I did. I wrote it down as well. Yeah, you know, like separating yourself from the market and that type of thing. Like we've seen it in Twitch, right? A new topic pops up instantly to the top, right? Instantly to the top. GTA roleplay came out of nowhere, right? GTA had like very minimal views for a while. GTA roleplay came up, bang, straight to the top. It was something new. No one's ever seen it, that type of thing, right? And so going back to what you were talking about in terms of like, you know, backup plan and hustle, that's what I was talking about when I got to like unhealthy toxic relationships, right? Yeah. Now the fact that you give the opinion, and I'm not opposing it, because as I said, I'm on the fence. The fact that you give opinion that people should be having a backup plan, does that not kind of fuck up people's dreams as well? Because what if they had put their all into it? I know how I go. I just execute. I don't think like too much thought goes into this one decision. It's very hard to make. So before I lose my top point of view, how do you think of it? Like, what's your opinion on having a backup plan or going all in on it?
Yeah, you're right. They're two opposing philosophies. I legitimately know people who operate on different time zones because they know it's more likely for them to get in. I could use commentary as an example. Commentary isn't as big in Oceania, so if people know that they can get a casting gig in another country, guess what? They have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do what they want to do. Who wants to do that? They have to rework the whole schedule. And guess what? 100%. They're working in Australia as well, so they have to do what they do in Australia for probably less money, and then to excel their brand, they want to obviously, you know, operate on a country that is more popular so that things can be bolstered up a little bit. Yeah. So you're right in saying that being all in definitely does have its advantage, and if you do truly have the expertise, if you are talented, if you have the work drive and motivation, then you probably could do it. You probably could do it. You know, there's no like line saying that, okay, you have to have a backup plan. I'm just saying that for folks who want to maybe live a little bit safely. And some people do like stability, right? Some people do like stability. Some people do legitimately want to go all in. And I think just determine what your philosophy is, and it can match what you want to do. And all of a sudden, once you find what matches you personally, then I think whatever road you do decide to cross, then you'll find out your answer.
For sure. And I just want to touch on Avril, one of my favorite casters. He said, nice hat. I know he's obviously talking about Mark's hat. It's not that it's a gaming podcast and we're talking about the Overwatch League hat. We're clearly talking about Mark's hat down there. But lots of people like your hat, Alex. So thanks for the clout.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Obviously, he would think it's a nice hat, you know, working for the Overwatch folks. So salute to you, Avril, mate.
Bro, I gotta up my hat game, bro. Straight out. Alex, need some tips after this.
No worries,
you need a Riot Games hat to represent Valorant.
I legitimately have one.
I'm getting what's her name? What's the girl I play with? Rage. I'm getting raised on my thing, bro. I'm getting raised. Rage. This is how you know I only play one game every few months.
We've been streaming on Facebook way too much. Like, you know, and that's a really important topic. And I think my advice personally for anyone who's stuck on those things is that just execute on whatever feels right in the moment, and obviously assess, but don't assess for too much. And I know we have some new viewers here, so I will say my signature quote that you have to spend 10% thinking about what you want to do and 90% executing, right? And then you adjust accordingly. Obviously, don't execute for the rest of your life. You're not getting anywhere, right? Obviously, but execute more than what you think about, right? Some people will say it's foolish, but the more you execute, the more you're going to learn. And especially in esports, it's exactly like traditional sports. And I always compare social media to traditional sports, right? Because social media, in the same way, what we do, it's a playing field. You have to know, you have to do to know, because the market decides on everything. We don't decide. I can't sit here and make a TikTok and say, yeah, nah, this shit's not gonna pop, and then I post it and it pops, and then it goes back in the drafts because confidently I don't want to do it, right? You have to execute, and so that goes for everyone else. I thought Mark was crying because I posted a TikTok today and it has 2 views, two views.
I told him it's gonna flop. I told him.
And one of the views on the TikTok, Alex, was me, and the other one was the other Mark.
I literally told him, I said, Mark, this TikTok, I don't know what's happening in it, bro. He's like, no, it's okay.
He's following his rule to execute, so.
Exactly. No, I respect that, because look at it this way, right? As a gamer, if you say you play a game, right? And then you're dying, you're constantly dying, this, that, you're raging, yeah? And you're like, I'm not going to post that clip. It's not going to get clout. But that's probably going to be your most viewed. That's going to bring you the most people to your channel. Because people like to see drama. People like to see rage. When you like getting killed, people are going to be sharing and be like, oh, look at this guy. He's like, who does like that? This, that. You know what I mean? People like roasting. So, like, just post whatever like you get, honestly. That's my 2 cents.
You know what the funniest thing about this is, Alex? He's not even a gamer and he understands the market for it.
Hey, like, brother, they don't call me a social media marketer for no reason. You get me?
For all my own, I won't hire you as my PR, but fuck it up. If you're only posting clips of me raging, what the fuck? But but let's be honest, Alex, right? Siskill. And I don't know who the other guy was, Siskill and that. You remember the clips of them raging with the Reaper clip?
Oh yeah, the Reaper.
Bro, that's like branding, bro. Like it literally just hit me. That's like personal branding,
dude.
Right?
I would legitimately have like a shirt and fucking like print it right there. Kill the fucking Reaper, dude.
Kill the Reaper.
Start screaming at people.
Because we only have gamers in the chat now, so we just disclude Mark. But Mark, there was a clip of this guy, right? He was playing Overwatch. He was killing a lot of people. And there was another guy who was killing like his whole team, and the guy literally went all out on his mic, like what you see me do on Valorant. Kill the fucking Reaper! Kill him! Like full screaming at the top of his lungs.
So good, man.
And bro, it's been what, 5-6 years, and that clip still makes me laugh. That says a lot, right? That says a lot about branding. And what you said, Mark, that people are always looking for the best moments, but sometimes the worst moments will thrive the most, right? And yeah.
Let me say this, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're gaming. You're fair enough. Like you're gaming, you're streaming it everywhere. This, that. But if you're not adding humor to that gaming, you're not gonna get anywhere. Because fair enough, people like to watch gaming. This, that. Like from my perspective, like I'm an outsider, right? I'm not gonna sit there and just watch you game. This, that. Like this, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna sit there and watch just a game and hear game audio. I want to hear what you're all about. Like I want to hear the rage. I want to like hear the person like communicating with the team. Hey, what do you guys want me to do now? If I get this skill, I'm gonna crack an egg on my head. If I get this skill, I'm gonna break my chair. You know what I mean? Like,
you know what's really funny about this?
Yeah.
You know what's really funny about this? So one, like classed as the greatest player of all time in League of Legends, Faker.
Yeah.
He's a mid laner for the team T1 at the moment. They've just qualified for the World Championships. He's regarded as basically the greatest of all time in esports, not only. So I legitimately watch his stream, dude, and he does not say like a word. Like you watch him and he's just clicking on his mouse and he's doing crazy things. He could legitimately kill the whole team, and you look at his face and it's like nothing happened. Like nothing happened, dude. So I completely understand as an outsider, and you know what? Your logic is completely right. There's two sides of the board, right? If you're an outsider, you're looking for that type of shit. And if you're an insider, I think a lot of the time you're looking for like pure skill. So
100%,
so you could legitimately look at someone who has zero personality, but if they're that good at the game, you're looking at them and thinking, what can I dissect from this to put into my game, you know? So they're like, they're two different things, you know? So
oh, no, go for it, man.
I'm I used to watch a lot of FIFA videos back in the day, right? And I don't know if you guys know the Sidemen. You know Sidemen? They have Road to Shore, the guy who always breaks his chair. And that's one unique thing about him. Like, he's a good player at FIFA. Like, he goes hard, but every time like he's opening a pack and he gets nothing, or someone like beats him, he'd get up, smashes his chair, he'd lose it on stream, this, that. Like, that's the kind of shit that entertains people. People like entertainment, not
that's the viral shit that goes
exactly, yeah.
Again, don't hire Mark as your PR manager, bro. You're gonna
smash it.
No, all I'm gonna say, deadass. If you hire Zorus Media, you'll be the next big thing in the gaming industry. That's all I'm gonna say.
Just make sure you have a broken chair next to you, a broken table, a broken
chainsaw and shit. You know, just destroying stuff.
Bro, it's so funny that we talk about this, because when I'm in the gaming, I never knew anything about marketing. Now, when I'm thinking back, all the moments I remember best about gaming before I became, like, you know, in that high league, right? High league. Was all the funny clips, right? Was the ones where people would punch their monitor, was the ones where people would scream, like the ones where people would jump off the map 10 times in a row, just want to keep jumping off. Like, it's so funny, it's so true, because no one's gonna be doing that, right? Like, that's the new shit. Going back to it, how, like, now you obviously have a little bit of experience, well, you have a lot of experience with social media, right? You've run your own podcast, you've featured on a lot of podcasts as well. How practical is, like, the social media world for esports? Not like how good it is. How easy is it for them to come on and just post clips? Because I'll sit here and say, but I'm obviously biased, right? I'm in the industry. So I'm going to sit here and say, guys, you can post 20 things a day. All it is repurposing. Go do this, go do that, go do that. But from someone who's not doing that, you have a YouTube channel, amazing editing, mind you. You've done all that stuff. How practical is it for a gamer to get to that level where you're at?
I think it's very practical, especially if you Twitch stream, right? It is so ridiculously easy to clip your own stream. And legitimately, this is what I tell people. When they stream and something funny happens, or like a montage, like worthy moment happens, just timestamp where that was in the stream and then go back later and just copy it and then post the clip. It is not difficult. It is not difficult. Every time I stream, I do that, and then on the next stream to advertise on Twitter, I would have the clip there so people would be more inclined to watch. Like, hey, I'm falling off a cliff. People will find this fucking funny, right? And guess what? It most of the time works. It's not very difficult to do. So in terms of the Twitch side, I think it's very easy. With YouTube, I think you can do that too. It's a little bit more difficult for YouTube because of like how editing works and stuff like that. But but for you to get your opinion out there, I mean, actually for YouTube it's not that difficult, because guess what? Most phones nowadays, they're HD as fuck. Like if I were to use my phone as my webcam, it would look way better than my webcam, right? 100%. So you could legitimately get your phone a wireless piece of, or you could even legitimately just talk to your phone normally, and you could make content like that. Like, it is not too difficult, right? And even every single game, or most competitive games at least, have a replay function. So guess what? If you had a game where you popped off, you're 20-0, you're playing Valorant, getting headshots, or Overwatch or CS:GO, whatever, a lot of these games, they have replay functions. So you can legitimately go to a website or go within the game itself and say, I can record this and I can just post it up to YouTube. So there we go. And that, not too much of a time waster. And guess what? You feel good after it as well, right? You feel good. If you post something, it's like having a photo on your wall of like a good moment. You know, you're with your friends, you're at a party, and then you wake up and like you see the photo and you're like, shit, that's cool. The same thing can be applied for when you clip something and you did it. So that factor, I feel like, would be something motivational for folks.
100%. And see, now people cannot say, oh, Mark, you're just saying it because you're in part of the social media industry. He's not a part of it. He's a caster. Wait, I don't know why I'm pointing this way. Is he to my left? He's a caster, all right? He's a caster. He's a commentator. He doesn't have that social media. He learns it all by himself. And go look at his YouTube. By the way, like, I know I'm going to link it at the end, but I might as well link it now. Go check out Racquet on YouTube, guys. his editing is so fucking good for someone that's not in the industry, right? He teaches us editing. Okay, so he taught us when we started. So like, to think that, you know, you have that opinion, and it proves that no matter what industry you're in right now in 2021, it doesn't matter. You're a social media marketing company as well. You have to be, for yourself, of course, not for others, but like for yourself. You have to be able to advertise yourself, or else you don't matter. No one gives a fuck about you. You're just another gamer, right? And back to that point, which I brushed off after. By the way, this episode's gone for really long, but we fucking love you, Racquet. Such great value this episode. You know, market change, right? And executing on things and seeing how people react. Like you said, people that haven't watched gaming before, they want to watch shit that's entertaining. They don't give a fuck if you aim good. They don't care. They want to watch shit that's funny, like what Mark said. When you get to the point where, I don't know if you felt like this, Racquet, once you learn professionalism and how the game is meant to be played, anything you watch under that, you're like, okay, that is fucking cringe. What are you doing right there? And especially when you become a coach, right? You're so hypercritical of everything, bro. I play with Mark Valorant. He's silver, right? I'm like gold. I'm trash, but at least I know how to move my mouse a little bit. Mind you, he has a 244 hertz monitor. I watch him, and I'm literally coaching him while I'm playing. Like, I'm the biggest backseat gamer there is, right? Because I can't function, bro. I can't function watching him peak without fucking doing a cross check. Like, literally, I can't function, bro. So, so if you're wondering if your clips are gonna pop off, it might thrive to someone like Mark, or it might thrive to someone like me and Alex, right? And if you're in the middle, then fuck, you've made a whole separate market for yourself. So I want to end the podcast by saying this to anyone trying to make it in gaming, content creation, whatever industry really, but we're making it to esports because it's an esports podcast today. Please create content to the best of your ability. If you need help with it, DM us. We're happy to help. We're happy to explain to you how we repurpose our content, how we get about 30 pieces of content out a day. Reach out to Alex. He's obviously more practical with the whole esports section. Reach out. Try to get as much content as you can, right? Yeah. And the more you produce, the more likely you are to get reached. There is I don't know the exact number, so I'm going to make it up. 800 billion pieces of content posted daily across all social platforms, right? The ability... the ability
like that one out of nowhere, mate.
Don't cut me out. This is a clip. The ability for you guys to make it into that number is actually very small, okay? Because heaps of people are doing it. There are going to be heaps of people. So I don't want to see anyone making any excuses as to why they're not progressing in their career in esports if you're not putting in that much effort. And that's my message. Thank you so much, Alex, for coming on the podcast.
You know that 800 billion? I think that equals to like 80 million per person a day. Oh, I don't know. That's...
Mate, no math. It's too late for math, mate.
We can cut that part of the clip. Alex is checking his time, guys. That means we're out. Thank you so much, everyone. We fucking love you all. The esports scene has always been my little baby, even though, you know, I've been a toxic cunt for a while, but I love you all. Thank you so much for coming to watch. This has been Hit It Where It Hurts. We are Zorus Media Company. We had Alex with us, an ex-esports professional, still an esports professional in my heart, my personal mentor. We love you so much. Thank you so much for coming on, Alex.
Thank you.
And guys, make sure to check his YouTube channel. He has literally like some entertaining like reaction videos. You have to check it out. Shit's funny. That's all I'm gonna say.
We don't want to spoil it for you. And guys, we go live every single night at 8:30. If you guys are interested in coming to watch, just chuck us a follow. You know, we're on Facebook usually all the time, but Facebook and Instagram fucked us. Thanks, Mark Zuckerberg. So we're going to be live. We're always live on Twitch every single day at 8:30. And we're changing up the podcast a lot. This podcast is going to transform into something that people are not going to expect. So if you want to stay tuned for that, follow us on all of our socials. We love you all. Thank you so much for coming. And last thing, this is the form if you want anything shouted out. If you're a content creator, gamer, whatever you want, we give free shout out at the end of every episode. We're not doing it at this episode because we've obviously drained this episode pretty long, but we love the episode. It was great. Thank you so much for coming. We love you all.